Let's next go to public comment, general public comment.
Thousands of consultants and many hours of time in gathering input from citizens and stakeholders over several meetings. The topics included everything from connectivity, policing, parks, recreation, Old Town, what about Timnath, housing options, trails, etc. These meetings were put on by the consultants and the data was compiled. The purpose was to work with to guide. It was released on February 25th of 20. As such, it seems that the members of the council should read and study the document. I challenge you to read the document. One of the to provide connectivity currently to do from Old Town along the south side of Bus Road from Harmony Club to Road 5. What is the concrete sidewalk on the west side of Main Street from where it ends to Harmony? The decision to close south is effectively cutting off Main Street. The comp plan calls for a vibrant Old Town with live work situations, cafes, restaurants, and encouraging small businesses. The decision to close will most definitely impact the ability of Old Town to develop and thrive. Yet, that was one of the top areas that residents wanted improved. See page 8 of comp plan. Also see page 18, need number 2. The town suffers from the absence of a vibrant core. See page 22. One of the major takeaways from this comprehensive plan was without a vibrant, thriving core, the town will not truly distinguish itself. What will prevent Timnath from just becoming a bedroom community of the Four Columns? Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. We now have Lisa. Lisa, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Do we need to note that she is now in attendance?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so Melissa, do we have to ask her, or we just acknowledge that?
Yeah, that's fine. We can just
Okay.
that she's here with technical issues getting her on board, and now she's here. So we have
Okay,
to
so we have some technical. Anybody listening in, Lisa Lake is on video. You won't be able to see her, but you should be able to hear.
They can see her.
And they can see that too. Okay, great. So I guess you can see her and should be able to hear her. So we're set there. Okay, so going back on the agenda. Wait, in fact, Lisa, we still are in mayor and council reports. Did you have any report you'd like to give?
I do not. Thank you.
So consent agenda, any comments on the consent agenda? Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I would move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Agenda approved unanimously. Takes us to business. Resolution number 46, series 2022, a resolution approving the Red Barn Comprehensive Plan Amendment. Chad.
Thank you, Mayor.
As you said, this is a comprehensive plan amendment application for the property of 38434 County Road 13, also known as Lincoln Parkway here in Timnath. The property is currently located in unincorporated Weld County and within the town's growth management area. The owner is 5258 Ranch LLC, represented by Ed Holloway and Derek Hoffmeister. The applicant is Ripley Design, represented by Carl Russo. So just quickly, for a little bit of context, the Timnath Comprehensive Plan is a guiding document establishing the vision of the town as it develops. Within this plan, there's a future land use map that designates areas within the town's GMA, setting up for the future zoning of the property. This process can be handled before or after annexation. This one is ahead of the annexation. They're looking for some guidance before, but it will always proceed to rezoning if it is something that does not match the comprehensive plan. So the subject property outlined in blue is located east of and adjacent to Lakeland Parkway and due east of Wild Wing Community Park. All adjacent properties surrounding this parcel to the north, east, and south were also owned by 5258 Ranch LLC. So the existing future land use designation for the property is rural residential. The applicant is proposing to amend this future land use map designation from that rural residential to commercial mixed use. The reasoning for this request is to allow for a future zoning district that would permit the use of a coffee shop with drive-through. That falls under the restaurant with drive-through service in the Timnath table of uses. So the comp plan allowable zoning districts under the CMU designation are commercial mixed use and community commercial. Community commercial is the least intensive zoning district that would allow for such use that would be proposed for this location. So this is just showing what the existing rural residential allows for, RE and A zoning, commercial mixed use for that CMU and CMC. Upon review of the comp plan's goals and objectives, staff finds that the application to be in general compliance with the comprehensive plan. Based on our interpretation of those goals and objectives, staff believes that there are more items that support the change than do not in the comp plan. Some of those goals and objectives we have found and support are focusing on providing a variety of commercial centers or uses, including neighborhood scale, striving for a balance between residential and non-residential developments that maintains the community character, and encouraging a mixed-use development that incorporates the ability to live, work, shop, and play in a walkable environment. Due to the nature of the request and various alternative positions or interpretations of those goals and objectives, staff is seeking a decision from town council as to whether to amend the comprehensive plan or not. This application was presented to the Timnath Planning Commission on September 20th, where they recommended approval by a 5-0 vote. There was also a neighborhood meeting requirement for this application. That meeting was held on August 18th here at the town center. There were approximately 16 individuals in attendance, and their comments, along with the applicant's responses, are included in the observation report in the packet. With that, I will turn it over to Clara for the presentation.
Mr. Chair. Good evening, council. My name is Clara, so I'm with Ripley Design Inc. 419 Canyon Avenue, Fort Collins, Colorado, and I'm here tonight with Mr. Ed Holloway and Mr. Derek Hoffmeister. So we're here tonight to answer any questions you might have. To start us off, we are here tonight to seek land use approval, and this is a really important part of the process for us. As you can see in chat or anyone of this, I'll keep redundancy to a minimum. We have undergone several rounds of review with staff. We conducted a neighborhood meeting. We were at Planning Commission on September 20th, where we were recommended for approval. Tonight, we are seeking your approval on this land use amendment. After this, we plan to proceed with the annexation and zoning petition and get into the site plan details with the site review process. So it's important to note that with the comprehensive plan and land use code, when they were adopted, it was envisioned there might be instances when an amendment would be warranted. And these 5 criteria have been set forth by which to do so. We're here tonight, and in your packets, there should be more detail on this. Chuck, can you hit the next slide? Thanks. We believe we are meeting 4 of these. We can go into more detail if needed. Next slide, Chad. Thank you. So our site is located just to the east of Timnath Reservoir and Wild Bank Park. Again, we are fronting Lapham Parkway, and it is worth noting that we are half a mile south of the Prospect Road intersection and 4.2 miles from Old Town. So we're really kind of out there. Next slide. Zooming up a little bit, the only thing I'll add to this image is that Wild Bank Park, which is west across from Latham Parkway, adds kind of a nice buffer. The adjacent single family, which is Latham subdivision, is about a quarter mile to the west. Thanks, Joe. So up on the screen is the framework map, and this is part of the Timnath comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2020. Again, we are at the tip of that little arrow, and you can see we're surrounded by a lot of yellow and kind of a tan color. Those are lower intensity uses. The nearest commercial area is located to the north with the brown and orange that you see there. That's about 1.6 miles away. And then to the south and to the west, where Old Town is located, so that's about 4 miles. So the current land use designation is rural residential, and we are asking to make a comprehensive plan amendment for commercial mixed use. Again, this commercial mixed use designation allows for a zone district that will support a coffee shop with a drive-through option. We get into the vision a little bit here. So the idea of Red Barn struck when the landowners were attending a youth soccer game at Wild Bank Park, and they noticed there is nowhere to grab a coffee, get water, have lunch, and this barn was located right across Latham Parkway, and so it became the catalyst for Red Barn Coffee. And we'll share with you a little bit. Here's some just kind of a compilation of images. So the commercial building will contain a kitchen, dining areas, and family-oriented spaces. There will be a drive-through option, so I've mentioned that already. Aesthetically, the new building will mimic the original building in scale and design intent. It is the goal of the owner to create a uniquely Timnath experience and hold space to foster community. We would also like to share with you our conceptual site plan. This is part of our due diligence as a team to make sure that what we're proposing actually works. So this is just a quick sketch that kind of demonstrates how parking, stacking, buffering, those kind of bulk standards can be applied to the site. Again, this will be reviewed in more detail at the site plan phase after we have moved beyond the comprehensive plan amendments. Also like to share with you conceptual elevations of the proposed coffee shop. So you can see here that it is almost an exact replica of what used to be on site. And it's really kind of drawing from that agricultural heritage of the surrounding area. And I'd like to conclude just reiterating where we are in the process. We're asking for land use approval tonight. After we get past this, we'll really kind of dig into the site plan and how that land use code might be applied and impacted. Yeah, we appreciate your review. Thank you.
Chad, do you have anything further?
Not at this time.
And this does not require a public, it does have a public hearing. So at this point, let's open a public hearing.
Okay, I will open the public hearing for resolution 46. And I have Randall Black.
Hi, I'm Randall Black. I live in Wild Wing across the street from the proposed site. While I would prefer that it stay rural residential, I suppose having a coffee shop there is the least objectionable thing that could go there. And I have nothing against the people who are trying to do it, more power to them. What I am concerned about though is once, this is the first step in rezoning, what I'm concerned about is what could go in there next. Once it gets rezoned, it's open to adult bookstore, it's open to a head shop where drug paraphernalia can be sold. If the state major passes, there could be a mushroom shop there. What I think Timnath needs, I've never really understood the zoning process very well, but what I think Timnath needs is a special use permit system. Before I moved here, I was on a church building program, and we built a church in the middle of a residential area. What that required was neighborhood meetings like we do here, and then a special use permit was issued by the city council. It stayed zoned residential. That was 30 years ago, and it's still zoned residential, and that church is there on a special use permit. If that church ever decides to make it a Dollar General store or an office building or something, they would have to go back and apply for another special use permit. I think Timnath needs that sort of system. This is right in the middle of an area that's all residential or rural residential. If we had a special use permit, we could issue a special use permit to the coffee shop. And then if something else started to go in there, they would have to come back and reapply for a special use permit. There could be neighborhood meetings again, and the council would have the option of approving that or not approving that. So I would encourage it. This is the first step in rezoning that property. Maybe it's too late for this one, but I would encourage it to implement a system where special use permits could be issued in residential areas so that the neighbors and the council would have the option of reviewing any change in use of that property later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Randall. Is there anybody else, Melissa?
Larry Schubert. Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name and address?
Larry Schubert.
Larry Schubert,
Yes,
thank you.
I also live in Wild Wing. I'm rather invested in this process. If I sit on my back patio, I look across the soccer fields right at what used to be the Red Barn. So always enjoyed that. I did write a letter to each one of you, genuine snail mail letter, and I don't intend to read that to you right now. I would like
Thank
to
you.
highlight a couple of things that I mentioned in there for the benefit of the audience here tonight. The first point is, and I feel strongly about this, what good is a master plan if it is so easily amended? I mean, the planning commission has already voted 5-0 to allow this. If this is the case, I mean, there is no compelling community need here. The only need is the desire of the landowner to develop it into a coffee shop. My second point, and this goes to what Randall just said, if the coffee shop closes and the new zoning remains in place, this could open the possibility of something less innocuous. Convenience store, gas station, small strip mall, who knows? Commercial multi-use opens a host of undesirable possibilities, and this worries me. And lastly, the developer stated at the community meeting that he was proceeding with construction of the building prior to approval of the rezoning. This begs the question, was this approval a foregone conclusion? If so, it seems that money and/or influence overrules community planning and neighborhood concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay. Council.
I guess I just have a question within our packet where it says it's objective 5.13 on page 49 of 152. And it says this is horizontal mixed use. Chad, can you explain what that statement means when it's horizontal mixed use? I'm sorry.
Looks like it's a good question.
Was that within the actual comprehensive plan or was that in the staff report? That was in the packet, part of the provided by the planner by Ripley Design. And I was just trying to get that definition of what that means.
Do you have the page number on that?
Yeah, page 49, 152.
You say 49, Luke?
Yeah. And it's objective 5.1.3.
I'll tell you what, we're gonna let you guys look at it and come back in a second. Unless you got it, or you
Yeah,
got
so that was
the
actually the response narrative of the applicant. So I don't know if Clara has anything to add to that. That was part of their packet there. Sorry, Kat. Thank you.
Yes, I can give a little color to that. So the horizontal mixed use is a way to define a variety of uses within an area. So I think the simplest way to probably describe it is mixed use building has a variety of uses in it, and it's vertical. So this is, yeah, by amending this plan, it allows a more a greater variety of different uses to exist in that area.
Thank you.
Anything else?
One more question. So I think this goes to what the residents were asking, and I just wonder if the property were to change in the future, could there be mixed use or multifamily dwellings on this as well? Yeah, so within those CMU and CC districts, based on the allowable or permitted uses in our table of the land use code, they would be subject or permitted within that district. Multifamily dwellings is a conditional use within both those districts. However, with it being a 2.6 acre parcel, staff felt that that would be, at least that specific use could be improbable based on that. So there would need to be an additional request for the zoning around it if they were to do something multifamily or something like that.
Brett?
I'll just follow on that. Kevin, Chad, is there, when we get to the official zonings, is there something addressing Mr. Black's comments about tying a specific use to this type of establishment that we can do in our zoning with other PD overlay or something of that nature?
Yeah, so it would be within the PD overlay that we have seen where developers have put in allowable uses within that property. Has not necessarily been discussed at this time as early stages, but that would be a request also by the applicant in order to do that, to have those specific uses for the future of that property.
I think something like that would allay potential concerns if that could be something to discuss, assuming this does pass. And then just one comment I make. We certainly received the letter and received I believe you wrote us an email or two as well. So I know you feel very passionately about it, and I appreciate your input there. Just to kind of share a little bit of experience of what I've had in my couple of years up here is in every neighborhood of Timnath, the neighborhood coffee shop is kind of the stereotypical desired business that people are always asking for, rather than another big this or big that. And I hear it a lot. And so, I mean, for me, this is the first time I've been hearing about any of this property. I watched the planning commission and other than that. So I don't know of anything that's been approved ahead of time. I certainly didn't hear anything, but if I'm trying to listen to what the broader community's been telling me since I got here, this is the kind of thing that I would enthusiastically approve, and also has the benefit of giving some options that are off Harmony Road where we deal with enough traffic issues as it is. So that's my comment that I'm inclined to approve this.
Lisa, I don't know, I can't tell if you want to make a comment or not, so wave at me when you do, okay?
I'll let you know. I'll speak up.
Thank you. Do you have anything?
I do. I have a couple questions for Ms. Rousseau and then also a couple for Chad. So first of all,
Questions for who?
Ms. Rousseau from
Okay.
Ripley Design. First of all, let me compliment your firm on two things. First of all, I appreciate the detailed explanation in terms of response to each of the comprehensive plan goals. And I appreciate you taking the time to really lay out those justifications. The other thing that I really appreciate is a more detailed than we often see sketch plan. I think that really does help us understand what the vision is here. It's not just a single box that's labeled with potential use, but to give us a real idea of what things look like. That all definitely helps. One question I have is related to comp plan goal 1.3.2, which talks about protecting existing and future residents. The town identified that as actually a reason that perhaps this does not comply with the comp plan. And so I was hoping that you could go into some detail as to why you think it actually does support, why the comp plan actually does support that. And then also the town makes a note that comp plan objection 6.3.2 may go against this. And I don't believe your proposal addressed that section specifically, but I wanted to give you that opportunity.
Thank you. I think I will start with, and I might come back to you on that second piece. So I'll start with it's goal 1.3.2, which is protect existing and future residents. So the full objective states that to protect existing and future residents from adjacent higher intensity non-residential uses through appropriate buffering such as fencing, setbacks, landscaping, and other appropriate measures where applicable. This is a really important piece to this proposal, I think, for us, and part of why we really dug into the details early on to understand if it's actually feasible. As it relates to buffering and setbacks, I think that is closely related to how compatible it is to what's next to the property. And I believe with this site plan that we've come up with, we can meet and or exceed what is required by the land use code to kind of mitigate the intensity between two different uses. Does that
Yes.
solve it? All right.
Appreciate that information.
And then
Further,
goal 6.2. All right. Oh, sorry. All right. So 6.2, objective 6.2.3 states that target businesses and industry that enrich the tax base, provide high quality jobs.
And I'm sorry, the town identified, 6.3.2. Yeah, promote the location of smaller retail offices, sit-down restaurants, and entertainment venues in the Old Town area along the Harmony Road corridor and the Artisan District.
No, I don't believe that was in our packet. Chad, do you want to, or still have color to it?
Yep, so I kind of read that quite literally within the comprehensive plan, that having a smaller business, this would be in the vision to have it just be a standalone coffee shop within the comprehensive plan states to have those within the Old Town corridor and the Old Town district. And we have also had those discussions about buffering and how that would relate and how we would need to see some great buffering around that just to make sure that these residential uses around it were well buffered and had quite the connection with the surrounding areas. So yeah, I just took that as literally from what we had stated in that comprehensive plan to keep this limited to that area.
Okay. And then, Mr. So just one last kind of question or concern, which is, this is an area that's rural residential. And we're proposing, the proposal here ultimately is for a drive-through establishment. So, to actively promote vehicle traffic in the area. As Councilmember Hanson said, a lot of people talk about, well, we really love the idea of a community coffee shop. A community coffee shop with a drive-through is kind of a different beast. And so I guess, how do we deal with those concerns that even this small single commercial entity is really changing the character of the surrounding properties by encouraging this vehicle traffic?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I'm going to address this in a few different ways. I think the drive-through option isn't sort of anticipated to be the primary function of this property. I think the owners would agree, and or Derek, you may add on here too. There's really an intent to foster community here, so that's the primary objective. The drive-through is kind of an additional nice thing to have. As far as impacts to traffic, we haven't taken a deep dive into that. That is something that we will explore in more detail once we get to the site plan review process and what that exactly means. And if there are additional improvements or warranted for the property that could mitigate some of those impacts. And then within the site itself, we are designing it such that stacking can be accommodated on site, and we don't have this kind of spill out traffic. That's something that we want to prevent that from happening. Yeah. Does that hit all I think that hits all the points you made?
It does. Thank you. Thank you. And then, Chad, I do have a couple of questions for you. One thing that you mentioned as a justification for amending the comp plan was the desire to promote these community commercial centers, basically commercial activity outside of our traditional, Harmony I-25 commercial center. Can you talk a little bit about the philosophy behind that and why promoting these community centers is a good thing and the comp plan advocates for that?
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a community center, more so or commercial use. And the location kind of lends itself to be valuable with having community park there to create an additional amenity for residents that are not only living surrounding that area, but in Timnath as a whole, visiting our larger community parks. I think it's important, as you discussed, to have different options and areas to walk within Timnath. I believe that we were trying to become more of a walkable, connected town. So having these uses, not necessarily centers, but uses throughout, I think would lend itself to that.
And I'll just add on that, Robert. So that, I think you're talking about need 3 that Chad identified. So part of that opportunity within that is to provide a variety of these, whether it be neighborhood scale, community scale, and regional scale. At this time, we don't really have much of the neighborhood scale, as Brett had mentioned. We more have the community and regional. This could be one of the first dominoes that could fall for a neighborhood scale, commercial destination type from that. That's part of that as well.
One of the concerns that was identified is once this is approved, if it's approved, what other businesses could come in. If this is approved, certainly we all hope that this is, tremendously successful. But we also know that small businesses have a rough go of it. If this thing shutters its doors in 2 years and it's up for sale, and the adult bookstore or whatever other concerning thing that the head shop comes in and says, I want to buy it and open up operations, how do we address the community concern about that?
So at that point, it would just be like any other, commercially zoned property we have, here in town, as long as it meets the land use code for an allowed use. it would be permitted. I mean, it would be no different than the project across the street. They still have 2 vacant shops that if, one of those uses wants to come in there, it's a use by right. At that point, we don't have, anything to really put a hammer on this to say you can't do this one use just because, it's in a different location. It would be handled just as any other, commercially zoned property would be in town. I mean, the same would be the case for up at Saratoga Falls. They have commercial right on the corner within the neighborhoods, right across even from a high school. That there's uses that are allowed in the CC zoning for that. So it's just, we would have to look at it based on what's permitted and not permitted as we go forward.
So essentially, we can't stuff the horse back into the barn.
We cannot stuff the horse back into the barn, not on that one.
And then my final question, and I'm not sure if this is best for Kevin or Chad or Lori, but if we were to deny this, there's been a representation that construction is happening regardless. If we were to deny this, what options do the property owners have to continue their proposal currently being in our GMA in Weld County, but not currently annexed in the town?
So I'll actually address both items that you brought up there. So the construction that's actually occurring or will be occurring for this, I don't know if it's actually underway yet. That is all through a building permit through Weld County. So that's nothing that the town of Timnath has pulled. They would just be as if they are a county resident and they have pulled a permit within Weld County for a barn that they are replacing. So that is an at-risk thing that they have done for themselves. That has nothing to do with the town. We haven't permitted anything. That is entirely through that. If a denial is to occur through you guys, it would go back to Weld County. Our IGA with Weld County isn't as specific as our one with Larimer County, to where then Weld County would most likely ask us if, we are good with them proceeding through Weld County, but then it would also be up to Weld County if they want to propose or if they want to take on a change of use as we are doing for them to do the same type of thing in Weld County.
Okay, so it would be possible for them to develop this over our objection.
They would essentially have to do the same thing that they're doing right now through Weld County.
Anything further, Robert?
No, thanks.
Okay. It's sort of unique to me because when I got the packet this time and saw the Red Barn and the coffee shop and stuff, I got a big smile because, as I think most of you know, when I was politicking for mayor, I basically door knocked every single house in Wildwood. And I asked everyone, what's something that you would like the town of Timnath to have? First choice was, we'd love to see a restaurant. Second choice was, I'd like to see a grocery store. And third thing was, it would sure be nice to have a coffee shop across the street. And I happened to hit when one of the soccer games are going, and I was talking to all the soccer moms, and I said, what would you like? Their first choice was, we would like to see a coffee shop. So it's the one time that we as council can maybe satisfy a request and a need that people want, because we have to have outside people do it. The second thing that I wanted to bring up, Larry, thank you for your letter. I appreciate the effort that you put into it, and I know your passion for keeping Wild Wing beautiful and nice, and I respect that totally. I need to tell you something though. We as council, once something gets entered or what's the word I'm looking for when it goes to P&Z? It's not entered, it's
What's it? Development
submitted. Once something's submitted, we cannot talk about it. In fact, it's against state law for us to talk about it, and we're given each time something hits P&Z, we're told this hit P&Z, and we can't talk to anybody about it. And sometimes that's detrimental. People think we're trying to hide something or something like that. We're not. We're by state law, And the reason why they do that is so there isn't the conception that it was pre-approved or something to that effect on it. So just want to be clear on that. It was a good question. If you saw what was going on or you heard that comment, you could go to that conclusion. But just so you know, the five of us do not have that ability, and we're good counsel here. Ad nauseum is telling us all the things of not to do. You can, if you want to add something, Lori, you're welcome to.
I think you did a great job on that, Mayor, this time. It's called ex parte communications, and if he has them with someone outside of the public process, then he's tainted the public hearing. So that's what we're trying to do, is to keep it clean. So, but I think you covered it great, Mayor. Thank you.
Mark, can I make a quick comment as well?
Well, can I finish?
Yep, sorry, I can't quite tell from here.
Randall, I appreciate your comments too of what's going on. Here's the thing that I think council, we need to understand, and I think staff does. This is a piece of property that's in Weld County. The applicant could go to Weld County and build anything they want. There could be an oil derrick there. There could be all the things that you're concerned about that Mr. Blacks and Randall has presented, and they're good concerns. And again, I appreciate your effort and desire to keep Wild Wing beautiful, and it's nice to have the reg. But what this applicant did was came to us with stricter guidelines than what he'd have with Weld, because he wanted, I assume, that a beautiful place. And you look at the barn that keeps the ag culture there, and what's there is way beyond I would have ever thought that they would come up with there. And having a coffee shop clear out, the closest anybody there could go to a coffee shop is 4 miles, you know, and so this is presenting the chance to be within 4 miles. And then the last thing is, you know, we're getting the opportunity to bring that into our guidance, to our rules, to our plans. There's no the reason why there's no comprehensive plan in this is it's in Greeley and it's in Weld County. It has nothing to do. We wouldn't have done a comprehensive plan for something in Severance, Windsor. I don't know who it is. It's Weld County. What town would take over it?
It's in our GMA.
Pardon?
It's in our GMA, so it's still
Our GMA, but it's in the Weld County. So Weld County could sit there and take over it and stuff. And so we're fortunate that they're coming to us to ask to meet our guidelines and our requirements and stuff for it. So I was just ecstatic that we got this opportunity. Plus, we're going to make a little sales tax. It's not the reason to do this, but we're going to make sales tax, which would potentially go to one of the other 3 cities. So I thought you did a great job presentation. The renderings are beautiful, and I'm excited that we have the opportunity to bring it into Timnath as opposed to somewhere else. Let's see, you wanted to say something, Lisa?
Yeah, real quick. Some of it you all kind of touched on as well, but I think having these little pockets of small commercial areas, I think is a great idea. I live super close, within walking distance of the daycare that went in on River Path. And I know there was a lot of concern from residents about that. And my experience with that is that it's a great addition to our community. I never see any traffic issues or anything like that. Something to think about, I guess, as if this passes, as it would move forward, would be, my guess is that there would be people coming from, especially as the park gets developed, that people would be kind of maybe walking across the street. So I think whether that's something we look at or we work with the property owner on would be how to make that a safe area for people to be able to walk across the street to do something like that. Because I do think that that could be something that would be something that might come up. And as far as businesses going in that we, some community members might not want, I know in the past we have had limited number of businesses that we've said are not allowed to be within Timnath. And that was particularly when the marijuana shops were opening. And so I think as a council, maybe we think about, are there legal ways that we can limit things that we maybe think community members wouldn't want in our community? And we can kind of look to see if there are ways of doing some of those kinds of things as well. But other than that, I love the fact that the barn may be reused. And I think for people who live in Wild Wing particularly, I think that would be a great addition for them to be able to stop there on their way to work or when they're out at the park and things like that.
Any further comments?
I will be brief. I think that we recently spent good money on a comp plan. I think that amending it so soon is something that we should not take lightly. However, this particular project, I really think does fit with the spirit of the comp plan. When we talk about small town feel, when we talk about supporting local business, this project, and maybe it's just these images are so striking. But I actually do believe that it is very much in line with the overall goals of the comp plan. So I'm going to vote in favor of it. I wish these folks the best of luck if this happens. And it seems like an exciting project.
Thanks. Anybody else? Could I have a motion to approve resolution number 46, series 2022?
I move to approve the resolution, the Red Barn Comprehensive Plan Amendment.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Larry and Randall, you made great comments, and I know that vote didn't go the way you were hoping. But the other side is, I hope you stay involved, and I sure appreciate your efforts and your comments and stuff. And maybe we gave you some info on why we voted the way we did too. So,
We appreciate being listened to.
Pardon?
We appreciate being listened to.
You bet. Thanks, Larry. I am going. Can I call recesses by myself, or do I have a vote?
You have to have a vote.
Guys, I'd like to have a 5-minute recess, if that's okay. Just this has gone on an hour.
Move to recess.
Do we have a second? All those in favor say aye. We're in at 5 after 7.
I'm sure.
Thanks, guys. I'm getting old.
After working out 2 hours.
So what happens, I can't last as long.
There we go.
Okay, Lisa, are you ready? Lori, do we get called to order again on the recess?
Yes.
Okay, Melissa, can you call us to order?
The regular October 11th town council meeting is called back to order.
Is that all we need?
I just said all members are present.
All members are present.
Before we start on 6B, I'm going to go back to reports because there was something I was waiting for information to come on and I just got it. And that is a heads up to the community. CYO wants to get, the town has given a grant to CYO and CYO has graciously giving all residents of Timnath the opportunity to go through their Winter Wonderland of Lights, which is just an incredible presentation. And it's absolutely beautiful. You will be getting postcards in the mail starting November 1st. And keep those postcards. Those are free admittance into the CYO Winter Wonderland. And so be aware they're coming and don't throw them out. They're valuable. And it is a great event if you get a chance to be there. All right. Going back to business on agenda item 6B, resolution numbers 47, series 2022, a resolution approving Timnath South Comprehensive Plan Amendment.
I'll let Chad get to the presentation here real quick. Mayor, I'm just going to kind of tee up how we're going to do
Sure.
So the rest of the items, 6B through 6F are related to this first item. So generally we would typically talk about all the items kind of together as a whole, but the remaining items after 6B, so 6C, D, E, and F, are all dependent on essentially on this first item. So what we're going to do is a presentation and discuss on 6B, the comprehensive plan amendment, with some reference to 6F, which is the sketch plan, just to give it a little context for the request at this time. But that's generally how we will handle this one. And then each item afterwards will have its own, we can discuss it afterwards, but we'll primarily focus on 6B, the comprehensive plan amendment.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thanks, Kevin. So this is a comprehensive plan amendment, application for 2 properties within or adjacent to the Timnath South subdivision. Both properties are currently owned by Timnath Ranch Investments LLC, represented by Dino DeTulio. The applicant is represented by Kristen Turner. And as Kevin alluded to, before discussing the proposal, I think it's important to understand the reasoning behind the request. The applicant will discuss this a bit further. However, this is just showing the conceptual plan, highlighting the applicant's vision of the remaining land to be developed within Timnath South. As you can see, there's a mixture of large lots and attached single-family dwellings. So the first subject property outlined in blue to the south is generally located east of Three Bell Parkway and south of Summerfield Parkway. Will be referred to as the Oshner Comprehensive Plan Amendment for this discussion. This property was recently approved for annexation to the town on September 27th council meeting. The second subject property, the rectangular parcel to the north, located at the southeast corner of Three Bell Parkway and River Pass Road. This will be referred to as the Three Bell River Pass Comprehensive Plan Amendment. The application is proposing to amend the town's comprehensive plan designation for Oshner, the Oshner location from low-density residential to medium-density residential, with the intent of developing single-family attached units, specifically townhomes. The application is also proposing to amend the comp plan designation for the Three Bell River Pass location from commercial mixed use to medium-density residential, Also with the intent of single family attached. This time the product type is unknown, but has been communicated as townhomes or paired homes. Upon review of the comprehensive plan's goals and objectives, staff finds the application to be in general compliance with that plan. Based on our interpretation of those goals and objectives, staff has found that there are areas of this document that support the request and areas that do not. Some of the goals and objectives that are found to be in support are providing a mix of housing to support a variety of household compositions and income levels that meet the current and future demand, and protecting existing and future residents from higher density non-residential uses. For the Three Bell and River Pass amendment, staff found that there were sections of the comp plan that were not in support of the application, coming from commercial to residential. Those being creating a balance between residential and non-residential development and incorporating a mixture of uses that provides the ability to live, work, shop, play in a workable environment. There are other goals and objectives within the comprehensive plan at any project, regardless of the type, that will need to meet, and there are goals and objectives that do not apply to this area of town or the type of use. And so just kind of highlighting what we have going on for the Oshner property, going from low density residential with the allowable zones to the R3 and R2 to medium density residential, allowing for RMU and R3 as well. The commercial mixed use going from what would be allowed as community commercial for this area, or going to medium density residential R2, RMU, and R3. Due to the nature of the request and various alternative positions or interpretations of the goals and objectives presented in this comp plan, staff is seeking the decision from town council as to whether to amend the comprehensive plan. This application was presented to the Planning Commission on September 20th, where they recommended approval of the amendment by a vote of 5-0. There was a neighborhood meeting for this application. The meeting was held on August 8th or August 31st, I apologize, at the South Timnath Clubhouse. There were approximately 30 individuals present at that meeting, and their comments along with the applicant's responses are included in the observation report. With that, I will turn it over to Kristen.
Hello, my name is Kristen Turner. I'm with TV Group, and I've been working with Dino DiTullio on the planning for this property. Address is 444 Mountain Avenue, neighborhood.
Kristen, could you talk closer to the mic or louder? I don't care which.
How's this?
There you go.
Okay, needed to be a little lower. Everybody so far tonight is taller than me. So just let me know if I need to speak up a little bit more. So we are going to be starting with the comp plan, and so we'll be kind of limiting what we're talking about to begin with, but I do want to give you just enough information about the sketch plan to help provide some information so that you can understand the comp plan a little bit more. So as you can see, the sketch plan is in front of you. And I wanted to give you the why for why we're looking at for some of these comp plan amendments as well. And so, let's see, I can't point on here, can I? Can you draw the hand around the Oshner piece for me? So the Oshner piece sits right in the middle of that orange bubble, which is listed as townhomes. And it recently became available for purchase. And so Dino was able to purchase that property. And so we started by saying, hey, let's take a step back and look at this entire remaining portion of the property and how it should develop. Look at it cohesively instead of coming in and saying, well, there's a plat for a portion of the property, but then how do we fit this new property into it? So it was really a relook at the whole property so that we could bring forth a plan that we thought was the best overall development for the remainder of the property. So we revisited master planning. This is what we came up with for our sketch plan. You'll see it's very similar to what was a previously approved plan for this area, but we have incorporated the orange bubble, which we're showing as townhomes. And that's where the Oshner property is located. And then also up in the northwest corner at River Pass and Three Bells, you'll see the purple bubble, which is listed as townhomes or paired villas. And so this was an opportunity for us to provide some different product types for this area and some diversity for this subdivision as well. I think we have all seen that diversity has become just a crucial component for Timnath and for all of the communities up and down the Front Range, being able to provide those different types of product types. And so part of our comp plan amendment, the proposal is so that we would be able to move forward, should it be approved, with the appropriate zoning to provide that diverse food product. The other thing that I wanted to point out, and I'm going to move forward a slide to show you something, and then we'll hop back for a second. So as you can see in that southern portion, the Oshner portion, you'll see that it's circled and listed as LDR on the current comp plan. And we are proposing it as MDR on the proposed comp plan. And if you'll notice around it, it's MDR for the majority of the Timnath South subdivision around that, so to the north, to the east, and to the south as well. And if I just take you back a slide quickly, you'll see that the majority of the site, the southern portion of the site, even though it's listed currently as MDR, we're proposing it as single family detached. So we really kind of see this as a swap of land uses. MDR is already permitted with this property for a large portion, but we wanted to make sure that we incorporated good planning principles. And so we were looking at where the MDR is located and where really does it make the most sense to propose townhomes. And really what we believe is that it's best to propose those townhomes at the intersection of your collectors. We tend to put higher density residential near higher density roads, for lack of a better descriptor of those roads. So it was really just a swap of that MDR and LDR and kind of the land uses we're proposing in those areas. So that is the southern portion of the comp plan that we're looking at. Then up in the northwest corner, the River Pass parcel, it's currently listed as CMU, and we are proposing a change to MDR. It does have existing zoning that allows for commercial development and high density residential. And when we look at this again, if you look at this plan, you'll see that it's primarily surrounded by MDR. There's a little bit of LDR to the west. And so the CMU, as we revisited this, really didn't feel compatible with the neighborhood. Commercial, it's had its zoning for a really long time, and commercial hasn't been a use that has seemed feasible to date. High density residential, we really don't think is compatible with this neighborhood. The MDR would allow us to do a higher density residential than single family detached, but it would still be significantly lower than what might be possible in CMU. And so we really felt like planning wise, when we look at this overall, kind of our best foot forward for this property is to look at townhomes in these two areas that we've designated, townhomes or the paired villas, as a slightly higher density development than single family detached, but very compatible with the existing neighborhood that's there. So kind of in the process, we start with the comp plan, and after that, we would look at zoning and sketch. So I won't give you any more details about the sketch plan, but that's kind of the why behind why we're asking for these comp plan designations. It would allow us to ask for the associated zoning as the next step should you approve this, which would then let us be able to move forward with a residential product type that we think is much more compatible with the existing neighborhood. And I will leave it at that. And please feel free to let me know if you have any questions, and Dino's available for questions as well.
Does anybody have any questions for Kristen? Brett?
So just to double check a couple of things, in the planning commission meeting, there was some discussion about, do we do this R2, do we do this? And Dino, you mentioned you essentially wanted an up or down vote. And if you had a down vote, you would be looking to do a mixed development. Is that essentially still your position if this were to be rejected? Just to double check on
that. Hi, Dino DeTilio, 1927 Wilmington Drive, Fort Collins. I think a question arose during the planning commission. We're in essence seeking a downzoning from, is it CMU or C2? C2 down to R3, and there was a suggestion, how about going to R2? And I said, I prefer not to go two-steps downzoning. I was wanting to stay, if we didn't go to R3, then my preference, I think, was to stay how it is. I'm open to discussion if you guys are seeing something that you feel like is
something you want to see. So I try not to draw a bright line.
Okay. And then one next question on that, in the proposed sketch plan, the 2 townhome sections, you're essentially asking for the maximum number of units allowed in that acreage. Is that a number you kind of put to give yourself full flexibility? Is that a number you're willing to adjust? Are you planning on doing maximum density essentially in those areas?
We typically don't achieve maximum density with anything we do. So we weren't looking at it from a density standpoint, more just the zoning standpoint. And then usually what happens is we start to look at product and lay it out. We're not driven by density, more just how it wants to lay out. I don't even, to be honest, know what the maximum densities are in there, like for either any of the zoning designations. Kevin, do you?
Well, on your townhome sections, you're looking at 8 units per acre. 8 units per acre, yeah. And so, sounds like you might be amenable if we wanted to talk just to lower those numbers just a little bit.
Yeah, is that a code issue, the 8 units per acre?
Yeah, that's exactly.
That's probably why it's in there. I don't think it's in there because we haven't laid out site plans yet.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions for the applicant.
Questions? Just questions.
I do have a number of questions. I guess, let me ask, the proposal is to amend the comp plan on 2 different parcels. I have not heard a lot of concern about the south parcel, the Oshner parcel.
Hey, Matt, could you pull up the one map that shows the whole project, just so we've got, won't that help you?
Yeah,
Robert?
this one's fine.
There, just there.
Yeah. But we have received a lot of feedback on the north parcel. And we still have public comment to come here. But I guess I'm curious why this came to us as one proposal with both properties as opposed to 2 different proposals that we could consider independently on the comp plan.
Is that a question for Kevin or for Mr. DeTulio? Kevin? I don't know. Well, no, I'm not asking. I'm procedurally, who should answer that question?
That would be.
Okay.
Yeah, I assume they responded to what we submitted. And just in my experience, it's always better to submit everything as opposed to piecemealing it. I mean, number one, you have to do this twice. Number 2, there's not the context for everybody to kind of look at master planning. And so my experience is the more you can master plan an area, the better project you end up with, just because it gives everybody context for trying to see what you're doing as opposed to, zooming in on one parcel.
Okay, I definitely appreciate that concept. Let me ask you, Mayor, I do have a whole list of questions, but do we want to take public comment first, or would you prefer that we kind of go
I
through?
think we have to finish up with the petitioner first and then goes to public comment. Is that not correct, Lori? Yes.
Okay. So I'm just curious about where you're at. If it were to be the council's position that we were supportive of one of the changes to the comp plan, but not both, would your preference be that we upvote or down the whole thing? Or would you prefer that we try to find a way to address them separately?
I think whatever we can address separately, I mean, I'm open to hearing what, everybody wants to see out there, or I guess hear everybody's viewpoints on it. I'm not, like I said to Fred, I'm not trying to necessarily draw a bright line.
Okay, and then just so we kind of understand what the potential options could be, and obviously there's still lots of discussion to happen, but Kevin or
Also, Robert, why don't you pull,
sorry, thanks. Kevin or Lori, if we hypothetically did want to approve one but not the other, what are our procedural options to do that?
You want to go, Kevin, or you want me to go?
You got it.
Okay, so if we want to separate these, then the motion to approve will be presented. We get a second on that, and then someone in the council would make a motion to amend the original motion to remove one of the parcels and address it separately or whatever we wanted to do.
So you could amend the motion to essentially remove the parcel that didn't have support. Is that correct?
Correct.
If that were the council position.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So Mr. DiTullio, I'll kind of give you the same opportunity that we gave the folks in 6A, which is town staff has identified a list of areas in which the proposed comp plan amendment is not supported by the comp plan. And I'm specifically concerned about the ones at Three Bell and River Pass. And so I guess I would just ask you to maybe respond to the concerns that they raised. The first one was with respect to goal 1.1, and which is Timnath has an appropriate balance of commercial and employment land uses. It sounds to me like what they're saying is that the diversity that you're talking about, at least at River Pass, has already been achieved, and so it's not supported by the comp plan. At least that's how I read that. What is your interpretation?
I'm sorry, repeat that last sentence or two again. I didn't quite understand what you're getting at.
Well, my interpretation was they said that 6.1 does not support an amendment to the comp plan at River Pass because the town already has sufficient diversity. And so, your proposal to change this is not needed. Am I interpreting that right, Kevin? And I'm on page 60 of the council packet.
So,
Yeah, and
so he's asking a question that deals with you guys' comments, so I think you should answer that question.
and you're talking about goal 6.1, the last one that we've listed there, Robert, or 1.1.
Yeah, I jumped into 1.1.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that, because yeah, we have 6.1 and then 1.1. Just wanted to make sure what you're talking about. Yeah, so on goal 1.1, so with these comp plan amendments, we've put generically what the comp plan states and, how it would meet or not meet. It's not, specifically to this location and this specific parcel. We've put in there that, we have an appropriate balance of commercial and employment uses, as this is one of the already listed commercial uses. So it would be removing some of that. That's why it would be one that's not necessarily supported by the comp plan, just because you're removing, that balance a little bit. It might be now a little bit off, more residential, less. So it's more geared towards that was staff's decision to say why it doesn't necessarily support it.
Okay, so essentially that the comp plan encourages these small commercial centers, and by
Correct.
removing this opportunity from Timnath Ranch, it's counter to the comp plan. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And Mr. Giuliano.
Well, I guess I would, a couple points is I disagree with having commercial down there. I mean, it's been that way for 15 years. In my finding, we haven't had a lot of demand for that type of use in that location. And from what I've seen is it hasn't been well received in the middle of residential areas. I think the daycare kind of showed that. And from my perspective, the R3 zoning was a less intensive zoning, a little bit more appropriate for that location, which is why we thought it would be received well, as opposed to the CMU and the things that the mixed use uses that are allowed there. The commercial seems to be gravitating towards the interstate and towards Harmony Road. And so oftentimes you get commercial projects sort of shoehorned in that fail. Or, a mixed use project with, just enough commercial to satisfy the code requirement. It's almost a throwaway from the developer standpoint.
And that just didn't feel like the right fit from my perspective. So, I mean, maybe it's just a respectful difference of opinion on that.
Yeah, I know that the daycare is often brought up as an example of something that was controversial when being considered. But at least my perception is now that it's here, it's a nice amenity for the neighborhood. I know there may be different opinions.
I think that's also true, and sort of the daycare is the sort of the best use for these types of commercial pockets. I think that the hope and the idea sometimes when you're, planning this got done, I think in 2004, is that each neighborhood is going to get this really cool, restaurant, and it just never materializes that way. It seems to all gravitate towards the big collector, in this case, Harmony Road, and you get the one or two uses up there, and we never really get the viable neighborhood commercial centers. What my experience is that those work in much denser urban areas where every square mile you get several of them. But in these types of densities, which are relatively low compared to urban environments, they're just not viable because there's not enough rooftops to patronize all of them.
And then the staff also identified goal 1.3, specifically objections 1.3.7 and 1.3.8 that talk about balance, employment-based, but also encourage development that incorporates the ability to live, work, shop, and play in a walkable environment. And I imagine your response is the same, that it'd be nice if this stuff was there. I just can't sell it. But for someone that lives in Timnath Ranch right now and wants a cup of coffee, is there a walkable option for them?
Right. No, same argument. I think when you have denser neighborhoods, those things become viable, but it just hasn't played out here in these what I call these semi-dense developments. So we would love it. I mean, the efficient market, it's a higher commercial uses are higher return for landowners and developers. So if they were out there, I mean, we'd be pursuing them for sure.
It's actually mentioned in 6D, the zoning, but I think it ties into this as one possible justification for zoning this R3 is that there would be an additional tax base or revenue for the town. In that. And I'm just curious from the town's perspective, what is the take, if this were to become residential as opposed to commercial, how does the tax base compare on sales tax collection, if successful, versus what we collect on property taxes?
I'm not quite seeing where you're seeing that, Robert.
Can you give them the page that you're looking at?
462. Part D.
Go ahead. Say it.
Page 16, part D, is that what you're talking about?
They're talking about on 6D.
Yeah, it was actually in agenda item 6D under Roman numeral 7. Let me just find that. And it was in the TV group report. So the last one is page 108 of 152. The public benefits achieved by this proposed rezoning are from the property taxes the town will collect. The development will have impacts on the town, but will be offset by the increase in property taxes and additional residents spending money and increasing the town's sales base. I just wanted to compare what we collect in property taxes versus sales taxes for a given parcel, if that statement was accurate.
Yeah, so that did come from the applicant. So I think what they were intending with that is there will be additional property taxes that are collected by the town. And then That could, as you know, Mr. DiTilio has mentioned, that can lead to additional rooftops that can then drive additional sales tax at potentially other locations with the additional rooftops, additional people to town, because they're spending more money. There's more people that are going to come here that then can spend more money within the town's commercial users to have additional sales tax to it. That was our interpretation of that response by the applicant.
Is most of our sales tax based from Timnath residents or from, for example, a Costco or a Walmart, from Timnath residents or from people that don't live in Timnath?
It is I don't know that number, and Lisa probably doesn't know that number either, but I would venture to say it's pretty high from non-Timnath residents.
And then in terms of, say, a $500,000 home annually, what does the town make on property taxes from that?
I believe that's about $250.
I thought it was 480, but Lisa? Well, he was right. Okay, 250 is right.
It's the square.
Yeah. Shoot.
So pretty negligible.
Yeah.
So the CMU zoning has been described as high density. And this proposal to go to R3 has been described as a down zoning. Maybe this is better for Kevin or Matt. But can you talk a little bit about the differences between the current CC zoning and R3 in terms of setbacks and how that impacts density, and then also in terms of the difference between a conditional use versus a permitted use?
So the property actually has C2 zoning to it, which doesn't exist in our land use code anymore. We have a provision in our land use code that says anything that wants to be developed under C2 actually gets reviewed under the neighborhood commercial designation. So under that designation, within the residential component, it has the allowance for a mixed use dwelling, which is essentially a mixed use building. So that can be any type of combination of residential and office or residential and retail, however it is seen fit to make that change or make that building comprise of. That then doesn't have a density associated with it. It actually carries a floor area ratio. So the amount of basically amount of the property they can actually develop. In this case, it's a 1/2 floor area ratio, which means they can effectively develop half of the site with the mixed use dwelling, which would equate to roughly about 148,000 square feet of building. So at that, just for reference, one building of the apartments across the street is roughly 27,000 square feet in size. So with the allowance that's in the neighborhood commercial, it is a pretty sizable impact from a staff standpoint that there could be roughly 148,000 square feet of building on that. So it would be a pretty big development and impact to that. There would still be buffering that's required between the R2 and the neighborhood commercial. It'd be a little bit less than it would be if it's community commercial from that standpoint. It would actually be pretty less from R3 to R2 as well, but there would still be buffering requirements, setback requirements, but there would be that allowance that from a residential component that could be done on that property if it stays C2.
And setbacks under neighborhood commercial when adjacent to an R2, which is everything around it, are pretty significant, correct?
Yeah, so if they're adjacent to R2, setbacks would be increased to 35 feet when it's from that standpoint. So really the only one that actually would be at that 35 feet would be the east side, as that's immediately adjacent. The street does act as the defining difference between that. So then it would revert back to 20 feet setbacks for the front, and so the 3 Bell River Pass side would be a 20-foot setback, But then to the east, adjacent to the existing single family would actually be increased to 35 feet under neighborhood commercial.
Thank you for all that clarification. I sure appreciate that.
Brett, did you have any questions? And
Um,
we will have comment. I mean, we'll all be discussing later, just questions right now.
Okay, so I just want to emphasize, I understand this correctly, or Kevin. By right, under the current zoning, this development can be done with a high-density apartments, 3-story buildings, at least as many units as are being asked for with this R3 zoning. I mean, am I understanding this correctly?
So it could be high density residential with the mixed use dwelling. There is a height restriction of 30 feet in neighborhood commercial, so it wouldn't necessarily be a 3-story building.
Okay.
It could be 2, it could be a 2.5 kind of a situation, depending on how they do it. So they'd have to meet within the 30 foot. The apartments across the street actually are at about 45 feet. Yeah, because of the waiver. So it would be essentially probably a 2-story building. And yeah, it would be, about 148,000 square feet allowance to that. There's no different, or the code doesn't specifically call out how much of that has to be commercial, how much of that can be residential. It has that flexibility within it.
Okay. And then my understanding is Folsom Road will be connected to the east as part of this
Correct.
overall application. Okay. And just to make sure I've done the math right, and I believe I checked this with you earlier, Kevin. If this entire development, the south end and the River Pass was all R2 single family detached housing, they could still comply with the code and get about 500 to 600 units, about the same number of units that are in the proposed sketch plan if they want to. So, we're talking about the overall number of people living in this neighborhood where there's really no difference between.
Correct. The density is solely based on the sewer district, the sewer capacity in the area. So there could be the allowance for all single family detached to still get roughly the 600 units.
Okay, thank you.
What's the market for townhomes right now? I know things are changing. I was just wondering what maybe the price would be for townhomes or paired homes?
The market's sort of in flux right now, so it's a hard question to answer. I think the market remains strong for, honestly, detached houses are hard to get up in the air for under $600,000. So if you can achieve something that's attached for $500,000, there's higher demand for something at $500,000 than there is at $600,000.
I'm just not an expert in this field. Do homes like this generally, are they investor based or they're owner owned?
Typically not. I mean, it's typically people either, on one side or the other of raising families before they have kids, after the kids are left, and sometimes people going through divorce. And you can't really control the investor portion of it, but I haven't seen it be a higher proportion than any of the detached stuff we've done. There are people in the market now, institutional money seeking to buy 100-lot blocks. They call it build to rent, who want to build 100 houses and rent every one of them. I'm not interested in doing it, but it's happening all over on the detached side. They call them horizontal apartment units. And that's because people can't buy, but because of interest rates, institutional money will build the houses and rent them. But I haven't seen it any higher in attached product than I have detached. Thank you.
Lisa? Do you have any questions?
No questions right now. Thank you.
You can sit down. And Melissa, do we have public comments?
We're going to start with Kimberly Miller. She changed from 6E to 6B, so.
Hey, y'all. I'm from Alabama, but I live here now in your wonderful town. Could y'all go
Roll
back to?
Tide.
No, or Eagle. No Roll Tide. I should have brought my penalty flags. But we're gonna probably fire our coach before the end of the week, so and that'd be good. Anyway, could y'all go back to, thank you. Okay. So I am the person that you have never heard from, and I am here to represent all my neighbors that you've never heard from. So we live. I live right here. So, and we all live on Summerfield. I live at 6115 Summerfield Parkway. And so all my neighbors and up around the curve, this development impacts, because right now we have an amazing view. It's beautiful, we can see the mountains, it's terrific. And the other really important thing for us is we have dark skies. There are so few dark skies anywhere in the world, but the ones in Colorado are disappearing at a very, very fast rate. I don't know if y'all knew about or part of what you were considering was the legislation that Colorado passed this year about protecting dark skies. They don't mandate it, of course, but as an example, Fort Collins is a dark sky community, and they have certain regulations about how you build and lighting and all that kind of stuff. And it says specifically in the bill that the International Dark Sky Association encourages communities, parks, and protected areas to preserve and protect dark skies. It goes on to say it's important to educate everyone about dark skies and how to develop, but also protect the night. Excuse me. It says in here additionally, it talks a lot about psychological well-being, and I'm an expert on that because I'm a psychologist. And in this specific bill, it talks about light everywhere has negative effects on our mental health. It negatively affects animals. We're also, that area around there is known for housing eagles and falcons and other waterfowl, that if all of this is developed, and I'm not going to talk about Topgolf, that's for a different day, could significantly impact their flight patterns and sleep and all the other kind of stuff. So the other thing that speaks to me about this whole development is if you just look at the whole map, there's a whole lot of people and not a lot of space. And as I drive around our neighborhood, like some of our neighbors, this is their space between them and their neighbor. And their yard is like from here to there. Now, I'm fortunate that I have a bigger yard, but I already feel like we're all crammed in together. And it would be better to not, and I'm sure that's not considered high density, but that's a lot of people. The other question I have for the developer is, why develop the green part right in my backyard? Because that's 28 homes. And if we go off of what that sales tax would be, if it's $500,000, it'll be $7,000. And if it's $1 million, it'll be $14,000 that you can get for that. And I guess I don't know, and I'm totally selfish when I say this, I don't know why there needs to be 28 homes in my backyard, because that affects me and it affects all of my neighbors. And I believe that if y'all lived where I live, you wouldn't want that in your backyard, especially because right now when I walk outside, it's pitch black and it's amazing and it's calming. And you can just be outside and be quiet and still, and there's not noise and all this other kind of stuff. Some other concerns that I have, reduced property values, because I can tell you that me and all of my neighbors paid a significant lot premium to get those. Now, of course, D.R. Horton said, we can't guarantee you nothing's going to be built there. But when we bought, we paid a whole bunch of money. And I can tell you, I know what my house costs. And if we have those 28 homes built right there, it will significantly go down in value. The other thing, to me, it changes the beauty and the landscape of that property, which I just love. What else am I going to say? I'm also concerned about traffic. Not only traffic on 3 Bell with all these people being added. I mean, you could argue 28 people or 28 homes is not going to add a lot of people, but all this and that purple is going to add a lot of traffic, not only to 3 Bell, but on Harmony. And in Harmony, being the road that it is already congested. And I know that y'all know that that's a challenge. But adding more dense people when you already have a lot of homes, it's just going to be a nightmare in traffic. And honestly, I left Fort Collins because I wanted to come here in the small town of Timnath, and I feel like we're going to be a smaller Fort Collins.
Ma'am, you're very articulate. You've gone past the 3 minutes, but I'll give you 15 more seconds to do a proper conclusion.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll end with a couple things. Number one, we also didn't feel like we got informed about this. And I know that people said that postcards were sent and the Southwest HOA sent us something. We got nothing. So that's why you didn't see us at that neighborhood meeting, because I know that a sign was put on the 77 thing, but we never saw it because it was deep into the property. So thank you. And I appreciate letting me go over.
Thank you very much for your comments. Melissa?
Clifford Van Carroll.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Clifford Nancaro, 6756 Covenant Court, Timnath. That's the tall grass area. If you haven't been there recently, that's the one that's on the other side of the developer dirt pile with the weeds. That's where I make my home. And we've been here 5 years. It has been terrific. One of the things that I have been greatly encouraged about is the comprehensive plan as a guide for making Timnath really distinguished in terms of a community with the aesthetics, with the amenities, with the commitment to preserving the town's agricultural heritage, and really being a special place. And I'm just concerned, one, about the speed with which all this is happening. I did attend the meeting on August 31st. I wrote you a letter noting that Timnath was organized in 1882, 140 years ago. And I'm looking at a what seems to be a very, very high speed move on about the last open space on the south side of Harmony Road. And I just would encourage the council, the developers. I'm not confused. My home sits on what was once somebody's ranch land or farm. I'm okay with that. I know it has to happen. I just would love to see the whole process slow down long enough that the character of the remaining opportunity to develop this space is done with great thoughtfulness. I think it can be done in a way that achieves your profit objectives and the increase in the tax base that the town needs for whatever infrastructure. And you know, you're all smart people. The 636 units in this area is going to put enormous pressure on 3 Bell, or 3 Bell. And think about it, folks. I really do appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Clifford, thank you. Melissa?
The last person I have signed up is Gino Tullio.
Funny that. I just thought I was supposed to sign it.
All right. Staff, do you have any further comments?
Yeah, just one thing. Planning Commission did at their meeting want to just pass along a note that with this, they feel they would hope that the character of the neighborhood would be taken into consideration for you all to consider and think about for this decision. Even though they did pass it by a 5-0 vote, that was one thing that they did want to pass along to you all.
Okay. Comments, Mr. Robert?
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's presentation. I appreciate what everyone's trying to do here. I'm of the opinion that these two different comp plan amendments are different. That the South property, the Oshner property, largely is in compliance in the spirit of the comprehensive plan. I don't think it makes sense to have a community that is just single family home after single family home after single family home. I think having a diversity of product makes sense. And I think allowing that parcel to be zoned as R3 makes sense in light of the whole project. So I'm supportive of that. What I have concerns about is the north parcel, the River Pass land. I am hesitant right now to give up the vision of a community commercial center. The truth is, people in Timnath Ranch don't have a lot of walkable options to get a cup of coffee. We just heard a presentation tonight about somebody that wants to open a coffee shop near athletic fields, near a park, and they think is a viable business. Right across the street, we do have a viable, thriving daycare. And so I don't think it makes sense to give up the commercial vision right now. I appreciate the challenges with developing that. But when we look at the comprehensive plan and the factors we're to consider, the staff identified that there are more factors that count against modifying the comprehensive plan than not modifying it. If we were to give up the commercial center, community commercial center vision, I don't think it makes sense to abandon it and go to R3. And I know we're not considering zoning, but what we do in the comp plan does impact what happens down the line. The fact is that part of land is surrounded by R2. And I think it's such a small part of land that if we were to give up the commercial vision, it would make sense to develop it as R2 and not R3. So what I am going to propose here today is that we move forward and approve the comp plan amendment for the Oshner party, but we essentially remove the north property, the River Pass property from that amendment. That's not to say we can't consider other proposals in the future, but I'm not comfortable amending the comp plan on that property today. So Mayor, with that, I officially move to amend the main motion to remove the property generally located at the southeast corner of Three Bell Parkway and River Pass Road, so that the amended motion will now read as follows. I move to approve Resolution 47, Series 2022, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Timnath approving the Timnath South Comprehensive Plan Amendment, generally located south of Summerfield Parkway and east of Three Bell Parkway.
Okay. Let's see. Let's first say, do I have a second?
Did we already do the first motion? I'm sorry.
Excuse me?
Did we already do the first motion? I'm sorry, the motion to approve?
I'm sorry, Lori.
Sorry. Have we already done the motion to approve?
I have not.
Okay, so that's where we have to start. Sorry about that, Robert, but we have to do the motion to approve. And then Robert can do his motion to amend. I don't think he has to read it.
Okay.
And then we vote on the motion to amend, and then we go back to the main motion.
So right now, we're still in discussion mode, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So what you said, we strike.
At the appropriate time, I will reassert that.
All right, great. I'm gonna just go down the line. So, commercial, I mean, I worked in tax planning and real estate for 40 years, and you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's here. And that's what's going on with this commercial space. I mean, look at the Harrison property, beautiful piece of property surrounded by Old Town and Timnath Ranch and that, and he's sat on it for 20 years. And, you know, the property owner has a right, and they have a right to develop their property the way they have. Now, we have the right to zone, and so commercial sits there and goes on. You know, everybody in Timnath South are pretty pleased with their home, pretty pleased with the community, pretty pleased with the neighborhood. And that's what was developed by Mr. DiTullio. And I guess I'm not a developer. I don't know what's the best way to lay out a neighborhood, the best way to plan a community. And from all indications I've got, he's done a marvelous job of laying out a community and laying it out. And so when he says, I think, my understanding of P&Z, when I read, I hope if I'm incorrect, somebody can correct me, but that he mentioned that this will be aesthetically better for the neighborhood than having single families because they will front onto the street level. And also, he noted he's not doing this for financial reasons because he'll make just as much money single family as he would townhomes. And I think he's also said that he won't max the space out. So yeah, my thought is we've got a developer who's been here for 20 years, 15 years, whatever it was, 20 years, I guess. So been here for 20 years, has laid out a beautiful community. Everybody loves Timnath, love their community, where they live, and that we trust him and say, you know, he isn't trying to maximize profits from what I can see. And if he believes that that community will look better with this plan, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. So just my comments. Brett.
Are we commenting on the whole thing or just the commercial?
Well, we have what we're looking at is resolution number 47, which is the whole comp plan, which is both pieces of property.
All right. I'll start with the River Pass lot that's currently zoned as commercial. I think some of the mayor's comments, I certainly agree with it. I think if there was opportunity for commercial stuff to be there, it would be there at this point. And I fear the only way to make it work will be to use high density housing. And from everything I've heard tonight, everything I've heard over the 6 months, I've seen conversations of this going on in social media. And I've been glad to see so many people commenting for months and months about it. Is the concerns are about congestion, density, intensity of use. So from my point of view, if I'm trying to implement that feedback, any opportunity I can get to down zone to do a less intense use is something that I'm inclined to support. Commercial, just, you may like it, you may not like it, depending on what goes in there. And, you know, we don't have a lot of control over exactly what goes in there. But a successful commercial development will be hundreds of cars every day. I'm sure the daycare is a couple hundred every day, and that's a much smaller lot to one business. I could conceive 1,000 cars a day, and you go to a successful commercial development there. If we're concerned about traffic, I'm really concerned about what commercial lots could be there. R2, I certainly would prefer that as far as the River Pass lot goes, but I also don't know that it can't work with the townhomes. I mean, I worked through this with Kevin a little bit. You could put 30 single family homes on that lot that would match the density of the central Timnath South area. We're talking about 50 townhomes. So something that's not going to be, if we're talking A versus B, it's not going to be a substantial difference on traffic or congestion. I will have some comments about changing lowering that cap a little bit when we get there, which I alluded to. So those are my thoughts on River Pass. I'm inclined to let this move forward. if I'm trying to listen to the concerns that I've heard. Regarding the south lot, I certainly have firsthand experience with the development there. I live right in the middle of Timnath South. I was here before Summerfield Estates and before Tallgrass, and it was nice when those areas were empty. You know, I got stuck in the mud once trying to drive through there before it was built out because I thought I could get my little sedan through there, and it just rained. But regardless, it was kind of nice. But when we look at the history of this neighborhood in that particular south section, it's been zoned with R3, that townhome zoning, since 2007. It's had that capability to, the developer has the right to put townhomes there, and he's been given that right for 15 years now, before ground is broken on any of our homes. So as far as what's actually being proposed tonight, it's more of a just solidifying what was already approved and shuffling things with the holes, the properties that were required to fill in the holes. So I don't see, again, we don't get a blank slate of what's going to develop. We get what's already there versus what's being applied for. And there's not going to be a big difference between what's already approved versus what's being asked for tonight. So my feelings are, I'm certainly fine with considering them separately, particularly if Tino's fine with that. I do think the applicant has the right to have the application that be voted on that he wants. And if he's fine with that, I'm okay with considering them separately. But I am inclined to move forward with both of these.
Luke?
I think as far as the auction property, which is I'm in agreement. I think that's as planned, keep moving forward, and it's just solidifying the property. Watching the planning commission, I just don't, some of the things that were, fences, right? This is a gateway to the neighborhood. Fences aren't the right way to go. And I really think to myself, like, I take pride in my neighborhood, and I think a lot of residents take pride in that neighborhood. And I don't think that that's a valid reason in my mind to move it to this type of development. It's the gateway, because I think a lot of people take pride in their homes. I struggle with the idea of this being available to support a variety of household compositions and income levels. I just don't think that achieves that goal for me with the income levels of what townhomes go for. And if it's going to be, that's going to be the reason, then I think people like houses more. But again, I have concerns about it being investor-only properties. I've seen things on Severance where they put townhomes up around a school, and 19 of those 20 properties were investors. So again, I struggle with, is this achieving that goal for a variety of household compositions and income levels? Because I would be really concerned if we say, people can't take care of their house, then investors come in. And so I really struggle with it. And I think having those single family homes right next to it are what I would like to see. I understand, I agree with some of Brett's comments that, overall you're going to get what you're going to get, and there's not a population density, but I do think aesthetically for the neighborhood, that would be my preference as opposed to townhomes. And I think what's hard for me as a council member is that we talk a lot about traffic, and then we come to these meetings and we don't have traffic studies. And I would hope maybe staff and maybe future times we could maybe move that traffic conversation closer to what these are going to be planned for. It's really hard to respond back to residents that there's going to be traffic problems if we don't have studies, we don't have experts out there. So I hear those concerns from residents about the traffic, and I think it would be better if we could make informed decisions about it.
Lisa?
So I would say I have mixed thoughts on it, but personally, I'm really holding out hope that some commercial will go into that area for personal reasons, because I live in this neighborhood and I think that would be great. And in my mind, it's always been designated as that type right there. And so I would say for that part, I would love to see some commercial go in at some point, and hearing about the one right up by Wild Wing that's trying to go in. I think that as this whole area gets developed, like that would be really nice. And I know a lot of my neighbors think the same thing, that that would be nice to have some commercial there. And I've lived in this neighborhood for, 10 years now. And so it was a lot less people back then. And now that more people are coming in, I think that we could support something like that there. As far as the south property, I feel like that one does fit in with the intention of what the neighborhood would look like. And so I kind of echo some of what Robert said earlier. So that's about it.
Okay, thanks. I think what I'm going to do is give everybody a chance to, let's try to keep it in a minute to sort of conclude your thoughts that you want to express to the rest of the council. And then I got another idea, but let's do that first. So I'll start with you, Robert.
Okay, thanks. I don't think we should develop for the sake of development. If some land remains vacant for a while, but we eventually get the best use that's in conformity with the comp plan, we should be patient. We have a comp plan because we want growth that makes sense. We don't just want to build out for the sake of building out. We're not just trying to generate a tax base. Mayor, I take to heart what you say in terms of Mr. Tutulio as a fantastic developer and has developed fantastic properties. But I don't think we can just simply say we should trust him and hope for the best. I think we need to be smart and strategic. We heard feedback from the community that they want us to take it slow, and at least with respect to that property, the River Pass property, I think we should take it slow and not approve the compound amendment for that today.
Thanks. It's real interesting to me. Again, one of the neighbors that lives right abutting this development pleaded with me, change this commercial. Do not let it be commercial because I don't want all the traffic, which is the reasons people are coming to say they want to change. He said, I don't want a 7-Eleven there with people coming all hours of the night and the lights going on and everything else that's going to happen if you leave this as commercial. And so I will admit that he biased me towards that. The second thing that I think we've got to realize is you could put in 100-unit apartments on that commercial space, and you double, triple, quadruple the traffic, and you double, triple, and quadruple the congestion. You didn't get your commercial space because he does not have to put a coffee shop or anything else in it. He by keeping the zoning up is allowed to go ahead and build whatever he wants under that. So he's downgrading, i.e. taking it so that there's less use by going to an R3 than commercial. And actually, I sort of commend him that it's solving a bunch of the problems people are concerned about: traffic, congestion, too many people.
I guess I'll mostly sum up with, with my approach with what I take towards these council votes. I look to take the wins where I've got them. And the wins I see are reducing density, reducing traffic. And yeah, maybe I can play the odds, be a little risky and see if we get the neighborhood store that everyone wants. But I think that's an awful lot of risk for what can also just be high density housing with some offices underneath it. So I'm inclined to support both these amendments for the reasons I've listed.
As a new council member, I think this is the first one when we talk just about the three-bill property where I've seen just things when we look at the comprehensive plan where it fits and it doesn't fit. I think this is the first one where I've just seen mixed on both sides. I'm just asking to maybe take it a little slower, separate it out, because it feels, to some points earlier, feels fast. And so I just think with all the differing opinions and different thoughts, maybe slowing it down a little bit would be helpful.
Lisa?
I would just say for me that, I mean, I look at the density of it, but I also look at the feel of the community a little bit too. And I feel like that's the part that's kind of winning out, where I just, and if I'm not opposed to, I mean, depending on what high density looks like, if it fits the feel of the community, I think that's what it ends up as. But I also think there's opportunity in that space. So I would like to see us look at them separately tonight.
Thank you. So, just a second, let me see. You. Let me see you. Can I allow him to talk?
Yeah, I sort of hate to not, yes, just briefly.
Okay, briefly, yes, Dino.
Okay, I don't have to talk. I just, seems like there's a little bit of a conundrum here. So I was just gonna say, if the desire, I want to obviously not go against what the town board wants. And if the desire is to separate them, that's fine with me. Just leave it how it is. You guys almost talked me out of it. You sit there and go, you can do 150,000 square feet. That's twice as much as we can do with the R3 zoning. I would just respectfully, ask the council that when we come in with something under that zone, I think we will have some backlash from neighborhoods on a commercial type, the intensity of uses that are allowed, which is why I proposed the R3 to begin with. So I'm fine with it because, I think we're a little bit stuck, and I would like to move forward with everything else. Just would just remind, or I guess respectfully remind you of that when we come in with something under the existing zoning, because it will be more intensive. That's what we're going to have to do to deliver what I believe is non-viable commercial space for the project. We'll have to subsidize that as almost an amenity for it, but you'll have twice the square footage to do that with, but it will be more intense, and the traffic and the lighting, et cetera, is going to be more intense. And I think we're going to get some backlash for it.
Thanks. So procedurally, I asked for a motion to approve first. Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the comprehensive plan amendment for Timnath South.
Do I have a second? I will second. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Actually, hang on.
Wait, what?
And then at this time, prior to the vote, I would propose my amendment, correct?
Correct.
Oh, it goes
Correct.
before the vote. Okay, good. Go ahead, Robert. Thank you. Correct.
And Mayor, at this time, I would renew my prior motion to amend. I won't reread the whole thing, but it essentially removes the north property, the River Pass property, from the approval, and would leave it as currently zoned.
Okay. Now, do I go to the amendment first and then the motion? Okay. Let's see. So you propose an amendment. I need a second. Okay. All those in favor of the amendment as proposed, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Nay. The motion carries 3-2. Then we've got, so that takes care of part of it. So then I've got a motion to approve resolution approving Timnath South Comprehensive Plan as amended.
Correct.
And I've got, okay, that's true. So all those in favor of that, say aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. The motion as amended carries. Okay. Ordinance number 16, series 2022, an ordinance approving a zoning map amendment to the annexation of the property known as Osher. Chad, are you going to make any comments or?
Yep.
Just a second there. All right. So as we discussed earlier, we'll go over the remaining items here all at once, and then open it up to discussion at the end there. So the next item, as you stated, item 6C was the Oshner zoning map amendment. This application is linked to the Oshner annexation that was approved at the September 27th Town Council meeting. Applicant is requesting to amend the town zoning map for this property outlined in blue, east of Blue Hill Parkway and south of Summerfields Parkway to R3 two-family and multifamily residential, conforming to the comp plan designation of MDR proposed in item 6B. The zoning district allows for a maximum density of 6 dwelling units per acre. As discussed, the applicant is proposing single-family attached dwellings that are intended to be compatible with the adjacent users and the architecture. This was presented to Town Council on the 20th, September 20th, where they recommended approval of the amendment by a 5-0 vote. So this is just the proposed zoning here.
So Mayor, with the next one after being.
I understand.
Yep, so we'll discuss this one.
This is 6C.
Yep, so we'll let's go action on this one,
Yes.
because then 60 has to be
Yes.
removed. Yep.
I get it.
Okay.
Melissa, do we have any public comment?
Not unless you let me comment here.
Okay. Any other comments from staff? Any comments from council? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 16, series 2022, an ordinance approving a zoning map amendment for the annexation of property known as Ocean?
I move to recommend approval of the Ocean annexation rezoning application with the condition of allowing staff to work with owner applicant to address minor non-substantive modifications and unresolved comments prior to final signatures.
Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Stay with me. Ordinance number 17, series 2022, an ordinance approving the Timnath South rezoning. I would like a motion to remove this from our agenda.
And is it better to remove it or just table it procedurally?
I think it's remove it because we're not tabling it, are we?
We didn't choose to, but we could.
I'm sorry, Lori.
I think we could actually vote to table it indefinitely, though, I think.
Okay.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, if we table it, does that solve our, we were talking about another, the 1 year.
It's got to be removed.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
This was a group effort this afternoon.
Go, Robert.
Okay.
Yeah, I was way on top of this one. So, Robert, would you like to make a motion to remove this from our agenda?
Sure, on advice of council, I would move to remove item 6D from the agenda as moot.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of removing ordinance number 17, series 2022, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Ordinance number 17, series 2022, an ordinance approving the Timnath South rezoning. Ordinance number 18, series 2022, an ordinance approving the Graves rezoning. Chad.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a rezoning application for the property west of Three Bell Parkway and south of Summerfields Parkway. The applicant is requesting to amend the town zoning map for this property from A, agriculture to R2, single-family residential. The zoning district allows for a maximum density of 4 dwelling units per acre. Again, this was presented to Planning Commission on September 20th. Recommended approval by a 5-0 vote.
Are you done? Okay, council, any questions or comments? Do I have a motion to approve ordinance number 18, series 2022?
Public comment.
Excuse me?
Attorney public comment.
Yeah, do we have a public
Comment.
comment?
Well, I'm not sure because she spoke earlier. She originally signed up for this item, but she spoke earlier, so I don't know if she.
So Louis-
Typically what you do is you say, if you don't have anything substantially different to say from what you've already said, please don't speak again, but if you've got something else you want to bring up, we're willing to hear you.
Let me just look real quick at my notes.
I'm sorry, did you have some new items to bring?
I'm just checking my notes real quick.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yep. Thank you. I guess I don't have anything. I mean, I could add stuff, but nothing substantial.
Thank you for checking that.
Yeah.
Could you call the public hearing, Melissa?
Public hearing is opened at 8:28. There are no further comments, and it is closed at 8:28.
Do I have a motion to approve resolution 48, series 2022?
This is ordinance 18. Right?
18, I'm sorry, ordinance number 18, series 2022. Thank you.
I'm going to recommend approval of the Graves rezoning application to Timnath Town Council with the following conditions: allow staff to work with the owner applicant to address minor non-substantive modifications and resolve comments prior to final signatures.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor of ordinance number 18, series 2022, and ordinance approving the Graves rezoning, say aye. Opposed? Ordinance carries 5-0. Resolution number 48, series 2022, a resolution approving the Timnath South sketch plan.
Thank you, Mayor. Lastly, we have a sketch plan application to amend a previously approved sketch plan for the Timnath South subdivision. This is a conceptual document and is the first step within the major subdivision process. As you can see by their sketch plan document here, there are several access points proposed from the north to provide connection and entry to the proposed dwellings down to the south. There'd be 3 Bell Parkway to the west, and then there is Oak Grove and Yellowtail to the east. The application is also included predetermined open space locations, a neighborhood park, and provides a continuation of the Poudre River Trail from the north. This application is proposing a maximum density of 630 dwelling units comprised of a mixture of estate residential lots, single-family detached lots, and single-family attached lots, all of which will conform to the maximum density allowed in each respective zoning district. The property lies within the Fort Collins Loveland Water District service area. The proposed density meets their master plan and has been supported by the district. It was presented to Planning Commission on September 20th, where they recommended approval by a 5-0 vote. All these items, the rezonings in this sketch plan, required a neighborhood meeting. That meeting was held on August 31st at the South Timnath Clubhouse. Those comments, along with the response, was included in the observation report. This application was reviewed against the sketch plan review criteria in the Timnath Land Use Code and found that it in conformance with that criteria.
Just a quick correction, since the River Pass parcel is not associated with that density, would actually be 576 units for this, removing the 54 that was called out in the sketch plan.
Thank you. Do we need to change anything?
That'll get changed with the motion that you guys have, but that would be the density that would be is being proposed minus that River Pass parcel.
Okay. You gave me the motion for that, didn't you? Let me find it. There it is.
Okay.
All right, any discussion on that?
I'll make a quick go ahead here. We're going at town home, Chuckle there. I will just point out for the council's benefit that it is our criteria for the preliminary plat that adjacent land uses that are less intense need to have, mitigating, there needs to be mitigation between with how this is developed and how it affects neighboring areas. So in short, my expectation will be going back to the density, overall density of the townhome lot, that we're not using the maximum density. If a preliminary plat comes in and uses the absolute maximum, I think that'll be met with some pretty heavy scrutiny. So I just want to make sure that's noted. And then for the public's benefit, anyone that might still be watching at this point, hearing the comments about density and when the overall density of this development is actually less than the existing density to the south, as well as the park space is more for rather than the rolling currents that we see in the south. So I'm grateful that we've been able to see some impacts with adjustments to our codes and the direction that's going. And again, emphasizing Folsom Parkway connecting through, I think will have a significant impact on overall traffic concerns in the neighborhood. Not going to make it so where we don't feel these homes there, but it will be a significant mitigating impact.
Any other discussion?
I've said plenty, so I'll keep it short. But if what we want our town to be is as low a density as possible, we have a comp plan that says that, but that's not what we have. We talk about, having quality development. So while I know there's some density concerns here, I'm sympathetic to the homeowners in the area. I do think we can get quality development here that does make sense. And so I think this does make sense.
Okay, thanks. I think, so help me, I need the applicant, Dino DiTullio, to agree to a conditional approval of the sketch plan with the changes that were made. Is that correct?
Well, what you can do, go ahead, Kevin, this evening.
It is also a public hearing.
We've already asked for a public hearing.
No, this one.
Okay. Could you call for a public hearing, Melissa?
Public hearing is opened at 8:35. There is no one to speak at this time. Public hearing is closed at 8:35.
Thank you, Melissa. Okay, now,
On this one, we're off of my cheat sheet, okay? So if you just make the motion as it's printed in your packet, and then it can be amended to remove Riverbend, correct? Yeah.
River Pass, yeah.
River Pass, yes. Then we can vote on the amendment, and then we'll be done.
so I first need the amendment proposed.
First, the motion.
Okay, so first the motion. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve a resolution approving Timnath South sketch plan?
I move to approve the Timnath South sketch plan.
Do I have a second? I'll second that. Then, is there any amendments to that motion?
I would move to amend, as recommended by council, to remove all reference to the River Pass property in accordance with the prior action under 6B, agenda item 6B.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Let's see. We do a vote now on that, yes. So I'm asked, all those in favor of a resolution approving Timnath South sketch plan as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0 on a resolution approving the Timnath South sketch plan as amended. That takes care of all the business, right?
We still need to vote on the main motion. We approve the amendment, but we need action on the main motion.
I thought I asked for
I think we just
to
voted on the
approve
whole
the
motion.
motion as amended.
Did we skip the vote for the amendment? Is that-
I skipped the vote for the amendment.
Is that what you're saying?
My understanding was the last vote was to amend the motion and that we would still need to vote to approve the
I
motion.
don't care. What should we do? The way I posed it was to approve a resolution approving the Timnath South sketch plan as amended.
So you vote on the amendment first, and then, yes, I hear what you're saying. Yes, so one more time.
So which one do I do?
We're just doing, the vote on the main,
Just the amendment?
no, the main motion as amended. We should have just voted on the amendment, not the main motion as amended. It's kind of crazy.
We just need to redo.
Can we just retract? Can we retract what we just did?
Well, we never did vote on the main motion.
That's my point. So can we retract? We'll start with vote on the amendment and then vote on the main
Sure, we
motion.
did vote correctly. Yeah, okay.
Okay. So I'd like approval of the amendment to a resolution approving the Timnath South sketch plan. So now we're voting on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Well, we need a second.
What?
Did we get a second?
I got a second on the amendment from the.
Sorry.
We already did. He did it.
Okay, thank you.
All those approve, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries 3-2. Then I need a motion. Let's see, I don't know if do I have a motion on the floor for a resolution to approve the Timnath South sketch plan as amended?
Yeah, we should return to that so you can now take a vote on that without.
Yeah, so I need a motion for that.
Well, I think we have the motion in the second. And then
We do on that
and then the
one?
amendment carries with that original motion. So now we just take a vote for the motion as amended.
I hear what you're saying.
Is that right? Okay. All those in favor of resolution number 48, series 2022, a resolution approving the Timnath South sketch plan as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Resolution carries 5-0.
I just want to thank the council for making me work so hard in my last town.
Blame the attorney up here.
Thank you. As a point of clarification, that is the River Pass parcel, there's nothing pending or open at this point, right? It's just, it remains with its existing zoning, and we just can come forward with an application or a submittal when we're ready. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Listen in, Chief, and make a comment if you want. I mean, we're at 9:15. This is a discussion item. It's only going to affect the budget, and I assume it's only going to affect one line in the budget. So it won't be hard to do. Can we pass on discussing this until next meeting? And I don't know if the council wants to do that. First, I want to see if it's okay with you. You can table it if you would like. What do you guys want to do? It's probably going to be 20 minutes, so. Staying?
I can say.
You guys fine staying?
Yeah.
Okay. Chief? Hmm? Yeah, I'm gonna find out.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor.
Thanks.
Good night, Mayor and Council. I'm not sure where you would like me to start with this. I put together a package of information with the explanation of what our current staffing is. And I have to add a modification to this document. Last week, we lost one of our recruit officers who resigned his position with the department. So we're actually at 15 sworn and 2 non-sworn. So our strength right now is 17 personnel.
So, I don't know, Robert, I'm gonna let you've got more experience than everybody up here. Why don't you, how would you like us to proceed, and what information you'd like to know from that? And I open that to everybody, but maybe with Robert first, because he's done it. So go ahead, Robert.
Well, as I recall, we're kind of looking at the budget, whether or not total strength should be 20 or 22. And we asked the chief to bring us kind of what their staffing looks like. So he gave us a spreadsheet that shows when folks are on duty and how many folks we need. Some of my prior comments were that while you could run a department at 20, that is under perfect conditions. And that my perception through my experience in the field is that it made sense to authorize the strength of 22, understanding the reality is that you are rarely at full strength. You are always dealing with a resignation, an injury, whatever, someone who you've employed, but you're still training, and so they're not an effective body, is kind of, what I suggested. So maybe the chief could explain a little bit about what he gave us, and then we can ask questions in terms of what makes sense.
Hey, Chief. You bet. The schedule is loaded for the whole week. You've got a front half and a back half. The main day of all employees at the police department is on a Wednesday. And the reason that is for training purposes, plus I can see everybody on the agency at one time. So the front end of the week is loaded a little bit differently than the back end. The back end, which is Wednesday through Saturday, is generally busier just because of the nature of the calls for service that we get. The front end of the week is a little lighter. So what I've done is we've got 6 separate start times, and then hopefully when January arrives, we'll be able to, providing we get the personnel hired, we'll be able to go to the 24/7 coverage. To give an example of the impact, tomorrow is what I call my fat day. That's when the whole crew's on board. But this is what I'm dealing with for tomorrow. I've got 2 officers in training in Arizona that are armorers that we have to schedule their training when those training facilities can take them. 2 in training, 1 on vacation, 1 who's taken a holiday, and then now I have 1 that's on injured leave with healing a thumb, and then the next person is, they called in sick tonight for tomorrow. So I'll be running a staff tomorrow with 10 individuals, and then with some of the extracurricular activities that we have, such as the things that are going on in one of the neighborhoods with HGTV and the impacts on the street. I've got to also ask the officers not only to handle their normal calls for service, but to make sure that they frequent the area that's where a movie set has been set up for a couple of days. To say the least, it's a balancing act to staff the street as we need to, and frequently I'm calling in officers or making phone calls. Can you adjust your personal life? Can you come in on your day off? Can you come in early, or can you stay late? And by and large, because the officers love where they work and they love the people that they work with, they make those adjustments. I'm struggling right now to hire viable candidates because I'm in competition with all the other agencies in Northern Colorado. So it's a little bit difficult, but I've got 2 in backgrounds right now. If they both work out, they're both post-certified, I'll be able to hire them in November, put them through a mini skills academy and get them to the street within 3 months. If I have to hire an individual that is not post-certified.
Can I interrupt real quick? What would that bring you to strength then, if those 2 are able to go?
17.
Okay, thank you.
Sworn. And of course, we're authorized 20.
Yeah,
Right. So where I was going with that is if I have to put them in the police academy, then that's another 6 months before they're a viable candidate for the street. And when they hit the street, then they're with the training officer for roughly 12 weeks. That's another 3 months. So before they're a fully functioning police officer, I'm 9 months downstream. Now, we've also developed a list for next year for candidates, and we're sitting at 12 applicants, and I'm hopeful that I'll be able to pull the balance to get to 20 out of that. And that's as early as January, February. If we can get the additional personnel ratified for 2023 to 22, that would be likely later on in the year of next year before I can even get them hired. And where I would be hiring from, hopefully, is a pool of certified candidates that are working in other agencies right now. And I might add, just before council tonight, I received a message from the chief at CSU. The 2 candidates that I have in the pool that are in the final throes of background investigations, they're both from his department. So he'll be losing 2 officers if they're viable candidates for us. So the request for the additional personnel, Mayor, is supervision. I don't have anybody but myself and my sergeants to cover the whole week, and I have nobody on swing shift. And next year, if we go to a graveyard shift, which is over the hours of darkness from 10 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning, I don't have supervision out there.
so, Chief, if you get to 20 officers, will you be able to go to 24/7, or are you gonna have to wait till 22 officers?
No, I can get to 24/7 coverage with, actually, Mayor, I'll try to pull it off with 18.
Okay. So and you think that might happen in February, March?
That's correct. In fact, to hedge my bet, we've also asked the sheriff's department for next year's contract to at least allow it in quarterly increments. In the event I can't get the personnel, the town still needs coverage from midnight to 6 a.m.
Which they've agreed to do January to March, and then you renew each quarter, if I understood what you said.
That's correct. In fact, the contract's working its way through the legalize right now.
Okay. And this is just recommendation for Lisa, really, as much as anything else, so she can do her budget and stuff. So, Robert, I really am deferring to you. What do you suggest that we recommend to Lisa?
Yeah, I suggest we authorize it at 22, and the other total, and the other recommendation that I made was move forward the proposal to add a detective by a year. I made the comment that if we are really going to have a full service police department, we need to do it. And part of that is having a detective. That's a unique skill set that while patrol officers can try their best, you need someone that is trained and dedicated to that function. So I also proposed moving that forward in the plan.
Which function? I'm sorry.
Detective. A
Detective, okay, I got it. Okay. Well, I think the question that really came to us is the 22. And so, does everybody agree with that? I mean, I'm just looking for a head nod. Okay. So you got 22.
Well, thanks, Mayor and Council. I appreciate that your efforts in that arena. What I will submit is another hedging the bet. If I'm lucky.
You're good at that.
Well, if we get there, I'll have the budget for the 22. If we don't, then the money stays within the town's checkbook.
Sure. Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Any comments from staff we should discuss? Any comments from council that you'd like to discuss? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.